Salam sejahtera, salam Malaysia Madani. A very good day to you, Dr. Razak. Hope you are well. I'm Johnny Kissing, and I will be presenting on your given assignment of disease in forest plantation. Okay, so before I get into the details, I just want to give a bit of context on why forest diseases are such a big deal. Forest plantations like those with eucalyptus or acacia are planted for things like timber, paper, and even energy. They are super important, especially in countries like Malaysia. But when trees are planted in large areas with only one or two species, they can become really vulnerable to disease. And with climate change adding more stress, it's getting worse. A single disease outbreak can damage huge areas and cause serious losses, not just money but also the health of the forest. So understanding forest pathology helps us catch these problems early and figure out how to deal with them before they spread. All right, so let's talk about what actually causes trees to get sick. There are two main types, biotic and abiotic. Biotic just means living things like fungi, bacteria, viruses, and even tiny worms called nematodes. These are the actual pathogens that infect the tree. Then you got the abiotic causes, stuff like drought, nutrient poor soil, or even damage from things like pruning. These don't directly cause disease, but they weaken the tree and make it easier for infections to happen. And in plantations, especially when you have large areas planted with only one species, the risk of diseases spreading is much higher. So here are some of the most common disease we see in forest plantations. First, there's stem canker, which shows up as these dark sunken areas on the tree trunk. They can eventually kill the tree if they spread. Then we got root rot, which usually happens underground and is hard to notice until the tree starts wilting or dying. Gall rust causes this weird swelling or tumor-like growths on the stems. They look dramatic, but are actually caused by fungal infections. And finally, wilt and leaf blight, which are easy to spot. The leaves turn yellow or brown and start falling off way too early. These diseases affect the tree's ability to photosynthesize and grow properly. So this is one of the major plantation diseases here in Malaysia. It affects eucalyptus, especially palita, which is commonly planted for pulp and timber. It's caused by fungi called Chrysopothe cubensis and Chrysopothe deuterocubensis. These pathogens attack the stem and cause something called stem canker. You will see dark sunken lesions on the bark, and over time, the bark can crack and fall off. It's been reported in states like Kelantan, Pahang, and Sabah. What makes it worse is that the spores spread easily in rainy weather, and they enter through wounds in the tree, like from pruning or insects. If left untreated, it can eventually kill the tree. So in Sarawak, one of the most serious plantation diseases is gall rust. It's especially in Falcataria malucana, which is also known as Paracerentis. It's caused by a fungus called Euromyclidium teparianum. I hope I got it right. Euromyclidium teparianum. Yeah. The infection creates these big swollen galls. They almost look like woody tumors on the tree's branches or stems. Besides being ugly, they actually mess up the tree structure and slow down growth. The wood becomes less usable, and over time, the tree just gets weaker. In some areas, especially in Sarawak, the infection rate is over 30%, which is pretty serious for plantation health. This species is popular in reforestation and pulp production, so gall rust is a big concern for the industry. Now, moving into the Southeast Asia region, a lot of the disease challenges here are actually pretty similar across countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and even Thailand. One of the main things is the climate. The high humidity and constant rainfall in tropical areas create perfect conditions for fungal diseases to thrive. Pathogens like Ganoderma, Ceratocystis, and Phytophthora are commonly reported, especially in acacia and eucalyptus plantations. And because many of these plantations use monoculture, planting just one species over large areas, it makes it easier for the diseases to spread quickly. Indonesia and Vietnam, for example, have been reporting more and more outbreaks of wilt diseases in recent years. In Brazil, one of the major plantation diseases is eucalyptus rust, which is caused by a fungus called Puccinia psidi. It mainly affects young leaves and shoots. You will usually see orange or yellow pustules on the surface, kind of like rust spots, and then the leaves drop off too early. The big issue is that it messes with the tree's growth. When the young parts are infected, the tree ends up stunted and the wood quality will not be that great. The disease spreads really fast in warm and humid environments, which makes Brazil pretty ideal for it, unfortunately. It's a real concern because Brazil is one of the biggest producers of eucalyptus timber and pulp. In South Africa, one of the most serious forest plantation diseases is stem canker, caused by Chrysopode austroafricana. This fungus attack the cambium, which is the layer of tissue right under the bark that's responsible for tree growth. When that gets damaged, the tree can't transport water or nutrients properly. You will see symptoms like bark cracking, sunken lesions, and eventually the tree will start to die back. What makes this worse in South Africa is the climate, especially during long periods of drought. Stressed trees are more vulnerable, and poor soil or planting sites can make it even harder for them to recover. For the timber industry, especially those growing eucalyptus, this canker is a big deal because it lowers both survival and wood quality. So, how do we actually figure out what disease a tree has? It usually starts with what we see in the field, things like cankers, oozing sap, yellowing or wilted leaves, maybe even mushrooms or fungal growth on the trunk. But visual signs are not always enough. In the lab, researchers will do tests like DNA sequencing to identify the exact fungus, or they might grow the pathogen on culture plates. Microscopes are also used to look at spores or tissue structure more closely. And then there's something called Cox postulates. It's a step by step method to prove a certain pathogen is actually the cause of the disease. It's kind of like confirming the guilty suspect in a crime scene. All right. So, how do we actually manage or reduce forest diseases? First off, fungicides can help if the infection is caught early, but they are not always practical on a large scale, especially in plantations. A more sustainable option is planting resistant clones or hybrids, especially for species like eucalyptus or acacia that are prone to certain fungi. Then there's biological control, which is pretty cool. Researchers are using things like endophytic fungi or bacteria that naturally live in the tree to help fight off pathogens. Good silviculture practices also go a long way. That means proper spacing between trees, pruning carefully, removing infected material, and keeping the site clean. And of course, regular monitoring is key. The earlier we detect a disease, the easier it is to manage it before it spreads too far. So here's where research plays a really big role. First, scientists use DNA analysis to identify new or emerging pathogens, especially ones that can't be spotted easily in the field. There's also research into biological control using endophytes, basically beneficial microbes that live inside a tree to help protect it from harmful fungi. Even at UPM, there's ongoing work on diseases like Chrysopode in eucalyptus plantations and how to better manage those outbreaks. Another area is the development of resistant clones. So we're not just treating disease but preventing it by breeding stronger trees. And of course, researchers also do long-term monitoring to track how diseases evolve over time, which helps in predicting and preparing for future risks. So to wrap everything up, forest diseases are definitely a major issue, not just in Malaysia but around the world. The good news is they are manageable as long as we catch them early and respond properly. Things like proper silviculture, resistant planting material, and biological control are all important tools, but they only work if we keep monitoring and stay informed. Research plays a big role, and honestly, collaboration between countries really helps too. Brazil, South Africa, Southeast Asia, everyone's facing similar problems, so we can learn from each other. In the end, good forest health supports both the environment and the economy, especially for countries that rely heavily on timber and plantation forestry. So all the information I used today came from research articles, case studies from Malaysia, especially yours, Dr. Razak, and abroad, and books on forest pathology. With that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.